We've talked briefly about using the Android emulator for testing, but let's look in detail at some of the aspects of using the Android emulator and why it's convenient and some things to watch out for. In order to fire up your app in the emulator, you come up to Connect and you select Emulator. The emulator fires up, waits 20 seconds to make sure everything is installed properly, then fires up the app companion, and then deploys your app to the app companion so that you can begin interacting with it. What's important to remember is the emulator is an emulator. It's not a device. So therefore, what you're going to see is still an approximation of what someone will see on a device. And in particular, there are multiple versions of the Android operating system, and the one that's included with the emulator inside App Inventor 2 is one of the earlier versions of the Android operating system. So if you want to see how your app is going to look on a more modern device, you'll want to connect up your device via Wi-Fi or USB and test out your application using an actual device. The other really important things to know about the emulator are the home button and the back button are things that you shouldn't use while running your app in the emulator. If you use the home button and then try to get back into your app, it will tell you that it has connection problems. If that happens, what you'll want to do is to shut down the emulator, come back to the Connect menu, select Reset Connection, and then once the reset connection is done, come back to the Connect menu and start the emulator over again. So the emulator is good for basic design layout if you don't have a device, but it's also, remember, just an approximation of what's actually going to happen. All right, that's a look at debugging apps with App Inventor in the emulator. Next up, let's take a look at debugging apps in the recommended mode on a device.